You starts right now.
Across America, live, this is Point of View. And now, your guest host for Point of View.
All right, this is Point of View. This is Kirby Anderson's show. This is not Kirby Anderson. This is lowly legislator Louis Gohmert from Texas. Honored to be sitting in for Kirby. And we have a real patriot for our first guest today. I'm going to get right to it. He is the president of Judicial Watch. He and another very dear friend, Mark Levin, have worked closely, and Tom has led Judicial Watch. You hear so many things that come up that has exposed corruption, massive problems for our country that people didn't want to talk about, and often you get to the bottom and you see the name Judicial Watch. They have dug relentlessly. And my dear friend Trey Gowdy he's the best cross-examiner that's in Congress anywhere, and I would love to have seen him in the courtroom. He's an amazing guy, but Boehner was not going to let them go to court to force the production of things that were really needed. And Judicial Watch has gone after the former Secretary of State, demanding to get emails. And they have been the most productive, not because the State Department or Hillary Clinton voluntarily provided things. They did it because of Judicial Watch's relentless pursuit, demand for court orders, getting court orders, and forcing the issue. And I'm just honored to have my good friend Tom Fitton. He is no stranger to Capitol Hill, and he's a brother. And Tom, thank you for coming on. Welcome to Point of View.
Hey, Louis, thank you for that generous introduction. Very much.
You know I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. You know me.
That's for sure.
Well, tell us about the latest on Hillary's emails.
Yeah, just incredible developments. There are, I guess, two big issues this week. We uncovered the fact that there are at least 14,900 Clinton emails that she attempted to delete or otherwise weren't turned over to the State Department that the FBI was able to recover as a result of its criminal investigation. And now the State Department got those emails last July. Of course, they haven't released one record yet, but they're now going to have to, thanks to our litigation.
Well, thanks to you and your team. You just have such a great team, and there's things you've done for the good of the country that I can't even get into. But I am so grateful to you, to Judicial Watch, to all of those that work with you and for you. But there are some very interesting things that we're hearing about these latest emails.
That's right.
What do you find most interesting in both the last group and this newest group, Tom?
Yeah, we had these new emails come out, Louis, just this week and a few weeks before. A few weeks before, we had emails come out of Yuma Abedin, who was the Deputy Chief of Staff to Mrs. Clinton. She had an email account on Clinton's illicit email server. And that first batch had the Clinton Foundation advocating to try to get a meeting on behalf of a Nigerian billionaire who was a big donor to the Clinton Foundation. That caused a big stir, and that's why the foundation started talking about not taking foreign money anymore. You know, what was the famous prayer? You know, Lord, help me stop sinning, but not just yet. That's the Clinton way. And then this latest batch this week that we released show, again, out of the Aberdeen emails, that Doug Bann, the Clinton Foundation executive, was seeking a meeting and got a meeting on behalf of the Crown Prince of Bahrain with Mrs. Clinton. Now, a head of state couldn't get a meeting through the normal channels and had to go through the foundation, of which his government was a supporter, to get the meeting. Incredible. And that's why you're getting this across-the-board revulsion at the way things were operating at the State Department under Mrs. Clinton with respect to the foundation.
Well, you know, some of us were repulsed back when the Clintons were in the White House in the 90s, and it made big news to some of us that if you donated, I can't remember, was it 50,000 or whatever it was,
Right.
and you got to spend a night in the Lincoln bedroom. And some of us are going, you can't be selling public, rooms. You can't be leasing those out for your personal enrichment. But anyway, or campaign enrichment. But people didn't seem to be all that shocked back then. And Tom, before we went on the air today, I was talking to some of the folks here at Point of View about how interesting it is. You and I have talked about Huma Abedin's involvement in her family's involvement with the Muslim Brotherhood. When Michelle Bachmann, Trent Franks, and two others and I first sent a letter to 5 different departments and agencies asking the Inspector General to investigate the extent of the influence by the Muslim Brotherhood, John McCain went ballistic defending Huma Abedin, and it was clear he had not even read the letter. He was accused. Helped establish a sisterhood group to the Muslim Brotherhood. Her brother, and I didn't even know some of the stuff that you found out, and that some of us have learned since that letter some years back. But I find it amusing now, after some of us have been talking about the fact that Huma Abedin's name was on the masthead of a journal, the publisher of whom his biggest helpers and inspirers, and nobody thought anything about it. And then you find emails, and then all of a sudden people, this is stuff, a lot of this stuff that people are getting animated over, you've known for a long time. But I guess when stuff starts coming out in emails, then people go, wow, those guys were right all along. They weren't as crazy as we thought they were.
What was very interesting about Abedin that's specific to your point is that in the Benghazi materials we have, in the run-up after the attack, it was Abedin that was a point person with the Muslim American community and the international Muslim community in terms of getting the video to blame. Mm-hmm. And that was weird.
That was weird.
Don't you think?
Yes, it was very weird.
And it's weird for some of the reasons you're raising. Why is it there was these group of Muslim Americans in the administration that were working with these foreign nationals to blame the video? And by the way, these foreign nationals, they were happy to blame the video because it fit in with their agenda to ban criticism of Islam.
But as the emails that you'd gotten into disclosed, Hillary had emailed Chelsea. She had emailed the leader in Libya. They knew it was not about a video. They knew it was an attack. But,
right.
Tom, we've only got a few seconds here. Can you tell folks how they can get in touch and locate you on the web or find out more, maybe get involved with what you're doing?
Thank you. They can go to our website at judicialwatch.org, judicialwatch.org, and they can look at all the emails that we've been talking about.
That's awesome.
Foundation and the emails when they do come out.
Tom, you are such a patriot, and I'm proud to be your friend. Thanks so much for coming on Point of View with us. We'll be right back with Point of View.
This is Viewpoints with Kirby Anderson.
You know, ISIS is the world's most successful terrorist organization, but it is also the most mysterious. That is why Robert Spencer wrote his book, The Complete Infidel's Guide to ISIS. He was on my radio program recently to talk about this jihadist group that rules 8 million people in a territory larger than the United Kingdom. The book is written in the style of some of the previous books with titles like The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam. Throughout the book, there are sidebar sections like the ostrich alert, reminding us of a head-in-the-sand statement by politicians or religious leaders. Elsewhere, there are sidebars with the title Taqiyya Watch. Now, taqiyya is essentially a Muslim word for lying. Deceiving non-Muslims is not forbidden in Islam. In some circumstances, it may be a religious duty for Muslims. This deceit is justified in Surah 328 in the Quran. One theme that runs throughout the book is the repeated claim by prominent politicians and commentators that the Islamic State is not Islamic. It's worth comparing the statements of the President, the Secretary of State, and other government officials to what the Quran teaches and what Abu Musab al-Zarqawi said. We've been told that ISIS is not Islamic because no religion condones the killing of innocents. Zarqawi taught that the goal of jihadists could include the killing of women, children, and any other passive category. We're also told that ISIS is not Islamic because the vast majority of the victims have been Muslim. Well, Zarqawi admits that although the spilling of Muslim blood is a grave offense, it is not only permissible, but mandated. We need to think clearly about the danger ISIS poses to our world. Robert Spencer's book provides a clear and comprehensive look at the world's largest terror group. I'm Kirby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net.
You're listening to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
This is Point of View, and we're glad to have you with us today. This is Louis Gohmert, a member of the U.S. Congress, and sitting in for my friend Kirby Anderson. And now, after hearing from Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, I mean, he really is an amazing patriot. I just can't tell you how many times this man and this organization, and I thank God for Mark Levin and his inspiration for helping get that started. But Tom has been an incredible leader, and he has surrounded himself with just brilliant lawyers, and they are such an incredible resource. But they've done some real digging on what's gone on at the State Department and this email scandal. And I thought you might enjoy hearing from a friend of mine. He and I were both judges in Smith County, and then he and I served on the 12th Court of Appeals as justices there. We didn't overlap all that long before I was finishing an unexpired term as Chief Justice that Governor Rick Perry had appointed me to. But Sam Griffith, Justice Sam Griffith, has been a friend. He is a brother. Outside the courtroom, he's taught U.S. constitutional law at universities in Iraq and China. He's preached through northern Iraq. South Sudan, funded water wells in South Sudan, built homes for earthquake survivors in Nepal. He co-founded a vegetable growing ministry that has provided more than 100 tons of vegetables for food banks in different locales. But he's an amazing guy, and he has written a book that you've got to read. Is sometimes the best way to deal with things that are so deeply troublesome is to laugh. And yes, God has a sense of humor. Look at me on camera sometime. He has a sense of humor. I went to Texas A&M, and I used to tell Longhorn friends, Texas Longhorn friends whose kids went to Texas A&M, hey, it's called evolution of the species. You're developing. This is great. And then all three of my beautiful, brilliant daughters went to the University of Texas. God has a sense of humor, and so does Justice Sam Griffith. Sam, welcome to Point of View.
Thank you so much for having me, Louie.
Well, tell us about your new book entitled McClinton, M-A-C, like Macbeth starts, but then instead of Beth, it's Clinton, Mac Clinton. Tell us about your new book.
Well, I subtitled it A Parody of Macbeth, The Tragedy of the Clintons. And what I did, I rewrote the story of Macbeth using exact scene, act, the entire thing, just like Macbeth, but I put in the Clintons in there. The dialogue is 80 to 90% of the original Macbeth. But, for instance, when in the play Macbeth, when Lady Macbeth is upset about the blood on her hands, she kept wailing, out, darn spot. In mine, Lady McClinton, Hillary Clinton, is wandering around with a blue dress with a Clinton's white spot on it,
out,
screaming,
darn
spot. There is a great scene in it where in Macbeth, Macbeth is thinking about killing the sitting king, and he has this vision of a dagger with its handle towards him, and he has this great soliloquy. Is this a dagger before me with its hind towards me? Come, let me clutch you. It's part of the fevered mind. It went on and on. In mine, I just took out the dagger, put in Monica Lewinsky in thong underwear, and the line was, is this a thong before me with its hind towards me? Come, let me clutch you. Is a part of the fevered mind. So much of it kind of wrote itself, frankly, if you ask me.
Listen, where could people go to find this really clever book, Sam?
Well, of course, our website is McClinton.com, McClinton.com.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also get it at Barnes & Noble, at Amazon, all the regular places. It's on ebooks, any way you want to get it. But on the cover, you have the picture of Hillary Clinton in a Macbeth garb holding a blue dress, quite upset. And she's looking at Bill Clinton holding his cigar, and he's in his little crown, and he's looking to the far left. And when you open up the back cover, there's Monica there. So he's looking at that, and she's looking at the blue dress. So it kind of wrote itself.
I would never have thought of how those two plots had paralleled, but that was incredibly clever. Anyway, I was honored that you would let me see a pre-published copy and get a chance to read that. And anyway, at a time when I was deeply concerned, and I know Paul says rejoice, and again I say rejoice, but there are times when we're very much grieved for our country, just like Jesus was over Jerusalem, the way Paul was at different times. There are times, and then along comes your book and cracked me up. That was funny. But Sam, you have been such a brother, and you had loaned me some years back when we were both justices on the Court of Appeals about a 12-hour Bible study that a pastor I still haven't met named Tommy Nelson from Denton, Texas, had done about Ecclesiastes. And I've read the Bible a number of times, and I was never a big fan of Ecclesiastes. But wow, that was an amazing Bible study, and you told me it was, and I was reluctant to take it and go through it. But I got to say, I think about you often because you encouraged me to get that when I quote Tommy Nelson over the idea that God is sovereign and God is in control, because he basically said, yeah, God's in control, but just because he's in control doesn't mean he wants us to lean on our shovel and pray for a hole. And that is one of my favorite quotes, because we got people all over America, and yes, they get a little bothered about this and that. And Sam, I know you hear it too. I hear it from people that shock me saying, look, there's just no way we're going to change politics. I've just quit caring. I'm not watching the news anymore. I'm not going to vote. You know, you care. You vote. What would you say? What do you say to those people who say, Clinton, McClinton, Trump, whoever. I don't care. I don't even play politics anymore. I just don't participate. What do you say to those folks?
Well, I think part of it is that it is the national character is changing to the extent that the vast majority of even the Democrats think Hillary Clinton's a liar and a crook, and yet they're still going to vote for her, which shows what our character is. There's a line on the back of the book that my book says, when a citizen gives his vote to a man of known immorality, he abuses his trust, he sacrifices not only his own interests, but that of his neighbor. He betrays the interest of his country. That was by Noah Webster, one of the founders of our country. When we're voting for people we know are crooks, the book, it's about 120 pages of the play, but then it's got another 40 pages of footnotes which underline the bribery and the corruption of the Clintons from the beginning when they were in the Arkansas office. Mr. Fenton is happy to get Hillary to now, supposedly after the election, to answer interrogatories, written questions under oath. However, if you recall, it's in my book, the Resolution Trust tried to get the documents establishing that Bill and Hillary Clinton were heavily involved in the collapse of Madison Guaranteed Savings and Loan. Mm-hmm. Hillary swore under oath in deposition and interrogatories that she didn't have any documents. And years later, when they're in the White House, one of the staff aides stumbled upon a box of documents which was her billing records proving she lied under oath, and nothing happened. So I'm very concerned that...
well, it was strange. I do remember that, Sam. It was strange that they went for so long saying they couldn't find them, and one day they just appeared on a table in the residence portion of the White House. That was pretty amazing. And I remember a hero of mine, Chuck Colson, after there were right at 1,000 FBI files found in the White House. That was illegal. And listen, we're going to come back with Sam Griffith. Call 800-351-1212. Let us answer your questions, hear your comments. 800-351-1212. We'll be right back.
How long have you been listening to Point of View? If this is your first day or two, you get a pass. This one isn't for you. But if you've been around a while, I have a question. Have you ever donated to support what we do? If not, why not? Maybe you really don't know. You never seriously thought about it. Well, please think about it. In fact, take action. Do it now. If you keep coming back, you obviously get something from the program. You've heard how people's lives have been transformed and energized to make a difference. And the only way that we can be here tomorrow and next month and next year is if you break that cycle and give. Please, you can likely do more, but act today and give at least $5. $5. Sure, if you can do 50, do it. If you can do 100, do that. But at least 5. Click the Donate Now button at pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Or send $5 to Point of View, Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221. Box 30, Dallas 75221. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again, your guest host for Point of View.
Hi, this is Louis Gomert sitting in for my good friend Kirby Anderson, and this is Point of View. And the staff, the people involved, I just can't say how grateful I am. They make things run smoothly, and I'm pleased to have a dear friend, formerly a judge in Smith County, Texas, and then a Court of Appeals justice. And he has a new book out called McClinton, M-A-C, and then Clinton. And you said that we could go to McClinton.com, is that right? .com?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Or Barnes & Noble or Amazon or any source should have it available.
Well, and it is interesting. There are still so many people that get upset when Christians talk about politics when it's quite clear, I know, my friend David Barton probably knows better than anybody, but if it were not for the churches in America, there would not have been a revolution, certainly not a successful revolution. There would not be a constitution. There would not have been the things that we've gotten. And I know you look at history, which is how you apparently it came to you to apply the Clinton scenario to the Macbeth Shakespearean play, and it is just brilliant, and I think people will enjoy it. But Sam, did you go to the we both are members of the same church in Tyler, Green Acres Baptist Church. Did you go to the I Love America? This was the 25th year that Mike Parks, the music minister, had been doing that.
Certainly. It is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It reminds us that the basis of American greatness is, as it says in Democracy in America, the greatness of America is in its churches. That's what the core lessons from
de Tocqueville
in America was.
Yeah.
If you don't have my friend Michael Novak wrote a book called On Two Wings, which traced and he won the Templeton Award for it. The two wings are the Judeo, and the other wing is the Christian elements that are the foundation for America's freedom. Everything we're doing has always. Why do we have the anti-slavery movement? It was Christianity. Why do we have Sundays off and then Saturdays off? Because the Bible said that. It's all Christianity. When you remember when the Declaration of Independence, we have these rights given by God, these inalienable rights given by God, not by the government. And the reason that is so important is if government gives it to you, they can take it away. But if God gives it to you, they are inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I was teaching in I preached through Sudan 3 times, and they're having a lot of problems now. I was talking to my guy on the ground over there one time, Lieutenant Mullah Rahman, and I said, because our Constitution was so flawed, they asked me to look at it because it was so flawed, it's so socialist. And I said, well, the real issue here is their hearts. Said if you get them saved, then Jesus will take care of how they should live. And that's kind of the contrary of what we have in America, where we're turning away from God and we're getting the ungodly things. Did you know a few years ago, I think it was last year, it came out that in England and then in the Northwest that they were taking the aborted babies and putting them in with the rest of the medical waste and burning them to make electricity.
Oh,
when you've gotten so far away from God that you don't even believe that babies are human, and you can burn them to make electricity.
Wow.
That shows how astoundingly far afield we are. Your question before the break, where you said that God's in charge, and I tell people that yes, God is in charge. Jeremiah knew the exact moment the Babylonians were coming over the walls of Jerusalem, but he didn't stop preaching. And as you said about standing on a shovel and hoping the hole, praying for a hole, David picked up 5 smooth stones and ran to battle with Goliath.
Yep.
It is our job to be in the battle, to contend for the faith, as Chuck Colson said, Jude verse 3. We need to contend for the faith, and it's a spiritual battle, it's a moral battle, and it's a cultural battle, which then leads to the political.
And this is Louis Gohmert, substitute for Kirby Anderson. I have former Justice Sam Griffith with me, and Sam is so true, and I love the fact that you pointed out David didn't just run into battle and say, "Oh God, take care of this." He was carefully selecting his stones. He picked just the right stones. He used his experience. He used his eyes and his hands and picked just the right stones. God will be with us, but like we were talking about Tommy Nelson's quote, he doesn't want us to lean on our shovel and pray for a hole. But
and remember, one more thing. Remember, David not only picked up the smooth stone, he picked up 5 because Goliath had 4 brothers, and if anybody else showed up on their horizon, he was not going to take out the Goliath, the giant that was there. He was going to take out all 5 of the giants. That is really...
So many people, and I have great hopes each time we have a presidential election, but so many people think if we can just get the right president, everything will be good. And I thought when I ran for Congress, okay, God can hopefully use me to help turn the country around from Congress. And what's become very clear to me, Congress is not going to turn the country around. The country is going to have revival. It's going to have another awakening, or Congress will not ever turn around. It's simply a reflection of the country itself. And I love what you mentioned, Chuck Colson quotes. He said the kingdom of God will not arrive on Air Force One. Our hope's not in Air Force One. He said, and I love the beginning of Heaven in the Real World, the Stephen Curtis Chapman song, because he starts out playing Chuck Colson saying, I meet millions who tell me they feel demoralized by the decay around us. Where is the hope? The hope that each of us has is not in who governs us or what laws are passed or what great things we do as a nation. Our hope is in the power of God working through the hearts of people. And that's where our hope is in this country. That's where our hope is in life.
Our only hope is God. But God, last I heard, wasn't a registered voter. We might want to show up and vote ourselves.
Yeah, well, he's given us that ability.
For the faith.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to be the ones that go out in the field and realize that not only is there eternal salvation important, but that these people will, they're going to vote for either a known crook of Hillary Clinton who's taken the bribes from everybody to get attendance at the Secretary of State's
Well, and Sam, we have somebody calling from Georgia that has a question about that. Bill in Georgia, what's your question?
Thank you. Nice to talk with you both. As we saw both candidates elected by the 2 major parties, I see what you're saying according to your book there on the Clinton family, but can't we also look at the Trump family and see that as we hear so much in the news media, we're about to choose the lesser of 2 evils, and as Charles Haddon Spurgeon said, when you have to choose between the 2 evils, choose neither. And I see evil on both sides in the major parties. But if we have another choice, I remember Ted Cruz saying that we should vote our conscience at the Republican convention, and I believe that. I believe we have a man on the third party, Darrell Castle, who is veteran and a Christian man, outspoken Christian man, and I just wanted to get your input on that situation.
Well, Spurgeon was exactly right when we're talking about the things that lie before us that we do. But when you have a business and your business is going to go under if you don't hire a chief executive, and your applicants are not all that good, you got to choose the best from among those you've got that will be able to step in. But thank you so much. We've got to take a break. Thanks, Sam Griffith. And the book is McClinton. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
This is Point of View. In Kirby Anderson's absence, this is Louis Gohmert, member of Congress from Texas. And I am thrilled to have as a guest now a friend who, he believes the things that Sam Griffith and I were talking about. And I really appreciated Bill's call from Georgia, in quoting Spurgeon and saying, if you have to choose from the lesser of two evils, then choose neither. And that's true if they're actions you are going to take. But unfortunately, somebody is going to fill the position of president. And if we choose not to participate, we are going to not be happy. And I'm telling you, I talked about it yesterday on the show, having read transcripts from one of the oral arguments on the Obergefell case, where we had 5 justices of the Supreme Court who said, forget what Moses said, God said. Forget that Jesus quoted Moses exactly in what he said about marriage, that a man shall leave his father and mother, a woman will leave her home, and the two will become one flesh. That was marriage. And then Jesus went on and added, in what God has joined together, let nobody separate. The 5 justices on the Supreme Court have made clear what God says is wrong. We know more than what God, Moses, Jesus knew. As Justice Ginsburg said, we just know so much more than they knew back then. No. As Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. And so anyway, people need to participate. People need to go out and vote. People need to not sit home and choose neither candidate or choose somebody that has no chance of winning, because that's like going and voting present. You don't have a say if you know you're voting for someone who has absolutely no chance of winning. I really like the Perot's. I've gotten to know Ross Perot Jr. I like him. He's been helpful to me. But it doesn't appear to be much question for most of us. The Ross Perot Sr. being in the election of 92 and 96 basically got Clinton elected as president. But I have with me on the show now a friend, longtime friend. He began his career with the New York Police Department, then the U.S. Secret Service. He'd been with the presidential detail even for Bush and Obama. He'd received a Department of Justice award for his extraordinary investigations into financial fraud on a task force. He's an amazing guy, New York Times bestselling author, and I'm glad to have my friend Dan Bongino on the show with me. Dan, welcome to Point of View.
Hey, Congressman, always good to talk to you. You're a good
Congressman. What is that all about, Dan?
Some people deserve the respect. I know. You know why I call you Congressman? Because I met you personally. We know each other, and I know you hate it. I know you prefer to be called Louis by your friends.
There you go, and you are my friend. And, you came so close running for Congress previously in Maryland, and I couldn't believe you were so courageous after you moved down to Florida. And I know you don't like to talk about your wife's health, but help out with her. Then you had no idea there was going to be a seat open up in Florida. People are, I know you've gotten beat up, but I know you to be a patriot. I know you to step up. You take the slings and arrows and bullets, but very courageous. After you move to Florida for the good of your family and to help with your wife's health, then this seat opens up, becomes an open seat, and you once again stepped up and said, here I am available for use. Dan, I appreciate your willingness to serve, man. You are a real patriot. Tell us about how things are going.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, they're going really well. I mean, we've got a really good kind of grassroots operation. We have a lot of small donors, so thanks to the generosity of a lot of people out there, we've been able to fund a professional campaign. It's been short, though. I know you know Kirk Clausen well, who was the sitting congressman in this district. Like yourself, he voted right pretty much all the time.
He's a good man. Kurt is a really good man.
I mean, you and him had very similar scores on all of these websites that score people who vote right. And as I say, Congressman, all the time, listen, I don't know a lot of these guys personally, but I don't need to. But I do know how they vote. Mm-hmm. And when you have websites out there that monitor and measure conservatism, and they score these people really well, those are the kind of people we need in charge. People willing to have the guts to make the tough votes. So it was really tough.
And I had yesterday here on Point of View, had my dear friend Tim Huelskamp. He was targeted, as most of us were, who stepped up and said, our speaker is not being honest. He's not leading us in fulfilling our promises. In fact, he's keeping us from fulfilling our promises. And we worked for 3 years, and we got a different speaker. But, most people that have stood up have been targeted by Boehner's staff, friends, super funds. And here you are. You were not even in Congress, but you stepped up to be a patriot. And I understand you've got some of that big money coming after you as well. What is the source of that?
One of my opponents is very very wealthy, and that's great. I'm a free market.
Oh, sure. I think it's fantastic. They've been blessed.
Yeah,
sure,
great.
You bet.
For America, he's very successful.
Yeah,
I honestly mean it. But what I don't like, Congressman, is this idea that because you are successful, and thank God you are, and employ people, and that's wonderful, that you use that money to influence the political process to move the country in a direction that clearly doesn't benefit the American citizen looking for a limited government. And sadly, that's what happened. One of my opponents is probably close to a billionaire. I've joked with people that if he wins this election, I will have the distinction of having run against the richest Democrat, John Delaney, and the richest Republican, Francis Rooney, in Congress. So I don't back away from a fight. But yeah, he was basically John Boehner's right-hand guy when it came to funding. Funded a lot of Jeb Bush initiatives that weren't necessarily aligned with conservative values. Again, nothing Bush family at all. I have nothing but the deepest of love and respect for President Bush. I worked for him as an agent. But again, I'm not looking to have coffee with these guys. I'm looking for people who vote right and maintain a limited government and unlimited individuals. And unfortunately, my opponent isn't that guy. And I've been taking a bath on the air. I mean, he has been absolutely crushing me on the air for 2 weeks. 2 weeks probably.
And it takes money to respond, as Bob Dole found out in '96 when he had all kinds of allegations. Though he was a honorable guy, he couldn't respond. He'd run out of money. How can people find out more about Dan Bongino and if they wanted to help you in Florida?
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. My website's Bongino. It's BONGINO.com. You can take a look there. I really appreciate that. It's nice.
Well, and be careful, Dan. There are reporters out there that will spend enormous amounts of time trying to provoke you to say something that they can say, see how he talks. Just be careful. Those guys are out there to provoke you. Don't let them do it.
You ain't kidding. Thanks for the advice on that one. I appreciate it. Absolutely.
Well, Dan,
right.
You're a great guy, and I hope we don't continue to lose great people like Kirk Clausen. He was has been, still is a great representative, and I just think the world of you, Dan. Best of luck to you in Florida. Please come back. We'll take your calls at 800-351-1212, 800-351-1212. This is Point of View, and I am so hoping God is blessing you today. We'll be right back.
If you have been listening, you've probably heard me talking about the power of $5. Someone did a little math around here and discovered if every Point of View listener gave $5 this week, it would keep us on the air for about 3 years, 36 months. That's encouraging, don't you think? I mean, sure, it would be nice if a millionaire stepped up and sent a check with a big number. The reality is all we really need is for everyone, for you, to do something. What I would like you to do today is find 2 friends, encourage them to join you in sending a gift, at least $5, more if you can. Challenge each other. Then the 3 of you go challenge 3 more. Just have everyone click the Donate Now button at pointofview.net. You go ahead, do it first. Pointofview.net, or send your gift to Point of View, Box 30, Dallas, Texas, 75221. Point of View, Box 30, Dallas, Texas, 75221. Thank you for doing your part in support of Point of View's $5 challenge. Point of View will continue after this.
I just thank God for y'all. I listen to you every day, truly. I wanted to thank y'all for everything you do each day to inform Christian families and our community about the things we can do, and just the way you're so informative. I listen to you daily and love you guys and appreciate you so much.
God bless you, Kirby, for keeping this show so on track and for the decades of wonderful help to this nation that Point of View has been. We're all big fans of your work, and we pray that God will just prosper it.
As a Christian, over the years that I've followed this program, I am constantly challenged to be on guard and to evaluate what's going on. And if for no other reason, to protect the caliber and the truth of your programming, I need to participate and to back your program financially to ensure that the truth stays out there for people to hear, to view, and to be a part of.
This is Point of View Radio.
Hi, this is Kirby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging: apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, your guest host for Point of View.
This is Point of View. This is Louis Gohmert, sitting in for Kirby Anderson, member of Congress, but I am honored to be elevated to the point where I can substitute for my friend Kirby Anderson. I'm also pleased to have on Point of View with me right now a friend. He is also a real patriot. He has put his life on the line for his country. He's an expert on the nexus between theological doctrines and the information age unconventional warfare. He spent 20 years combating terrorism on behalf of the United States. Rich has advised the White House, Congress, foreign governments on strategy, technology, terrorism. He's a current Lincoln Fellow with the Claremont Institute and Vice President of Intelligence and National Security for RED LLC. And that's a company that develops, tests, and evaluates new combat capabilities. Like I said, you've had people say kiddingly, I could tell you the answer, but then I'd have to kill you. Well, Rich has been kind enough to never have to kill me. He just prefers not to say things he's not allowed to say that he's been involved in on behalf of our country. But Rich Higgins, welcome to Point of View.
Hey, how you doing, sir? And no need for security clearance anymore. You just check into the Chappaquidda bathroom. You're good to go.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, or just keep waiting for the emails to continue being disclosed as Judicial Watch gets judged to continually order more production, and they continue to find more. But Rich, I mean, even as a government patriot protecting us in ways people will never know, you follow what goes on. And you know that back several years ago, Michelle Bachmann and I and three others had sent letters, and one of the letters was to the Inspector General of the State Department, asking for an investigation about the extent of Muslim Brother influence. We knew there was Muslim Brother influence. Imam Majid, who had been head of the Muslim organization, the Islamic Society of North America, his group had been named as a co-conspirator with the Holy Land Foundation in helping terrorism, support terrorism financially. And so we were just asking for an investigation to the extent. Clearly there was. Imam Majid had been advising the president on speeches like the one he gave before Netanyahu arrived. He was invited into the inner sanctum of the White House and the State Department. There's so many others. But it's been amazing, Rich Higgins, that as the emails have disclosed things about Huma Abedin, all of a sudden people are starting to learn things you've known for years. Tell us about it.
I think the biggest thing, sir, is people have this conception that spying is about stealing of secrets. And while that's a part of it, the real activity of hostile foreign intelligence actors or hostile foreign actors is going to be to emplace agents of influence that are going to inform our strategic decision-making process, whether that be through, active disinformation or misinformation campaigns, or perhaps prohibiting the acceptance or even examination of an alternative point of view, which is what you and the other congressmen were proffering. And we see, like, for example, with Abedin, I mean, we knew back when she was a 20-year-old student at George Washington University that she was a member of the Muslim Students Association. I think she was the head of, like, their social committee or one of their committees. She was the head of it. And Muslim Students Association is a Muslim Brotherhood organization. It was the first Muslim Brotherhood organization in the United States. So I think it's getting to, first off, the overlooking the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood was conducting the influence here. And then it shows a deeper flaw in our security vetting process and even our understanding of who the enemy actually is. Because if you look at our current vetting process, I'm pretty sure our current vetting doesn't look at specifically Muslim Brotherhood subversive groups. So long as your affiliations aren't tied to the Communist Party, you're probably going to get a security clearance inside the United States right now. And so what we've seen over the course of the presidential election in the past year or so is these issues are finally, after 15 years, being brought to the forefront, and the contrast couldn't be more striking between the two final candidates that are standing.
Well, as far as affecting political opinion in the United States, what can you tell us about what has been known for 20 years or so about the Muslim Brother radical Islam efforts to affect what goes on in the United States?
I wrote a War College thesis about this. If anybody's interested, you can probably pull it down on Google. But my thesis is basically that the enemy's strategy on the war on terrorism has never been about the killing of Americans, albeit that's a part and a tool of what they want to do. Their ultimate goal is the political subordination of freedom and the concepts enshrined, in the Declaration, protected by the Constitution and the body of law emanating therefrom. And what we see is them executing a concerted strategy that I call reality dislocation. And I think what you see rolling out over the past couple of months, and the presidential election maybe being the catalyst to draw this out, is that we have two, they're not divergent points of view where we're discussing, we're debating the meaning of a word here or there. I mean, we have open conflict over whether or not something that is a self-stated enemy is in fact an enemy. And I think it's very...
what do you know about, what are the reports now about that common enemy getting into Mexico, looking toward the United States?
I mean, absolutely, they're in Mexico. Look, I mean, they're opportunistic. They're here to begin with. They're going to have cross-border sanctuaries where they're outside the purview of our intelligence, domestic intelligence, and police capabilities. This is just traditional political warfare, unconventional warfare tactics being applied with this theological cloak draped over it. I mean, anybody who's ever worked in the special warfare world knows that one of the first things you want is a cross-border sanctuary where you can set up logistics, where you can set up infrastructure underneath away from the prying eyes of the state that you're actually targeting. And so we see them doing that here. And that's what you're dealing with down there on the border, sir.
Well, Rich, I really appreciate you coming on. I didn't know if you could stay through another segment or not. You need to go. I know you've been generous with your time already.
Sir, I can stay on if you'd like me to.
I would love to, and we'll take calls at 800-351-1212. Rich Higgins, when he was with our U.S. government, he knew where the bodies were buried, still does. Come back. This is Point of View.
This is Viewpoints with Kirby Anderson.
You know, ISIS is the world's most successful terrorist organization, but it is also the most mysterious. That is why Robert Spencer wrote his book, The Complete Infidel's Guide to ISIS. He was on my radio program recently to talk about this jihadist group that rules 8 million people in a territory larger than the United Kingdom. The book is written in the style of some of the previous books with titles like The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam. Throughout the book, there are sidebar sections like the ostrich alert, reminding us of a head-in-the-sand statement by politicians or religious leaders. Elsewhere, there are sidebars with the title Taqiyya Watch. Now, taqiyya is essentially a Muslim word for lying. Deceiving non-Muslims is not forbidden in Islam. In some circumstances, it may be a religious duty for Muslims. This deceit is justified in Surah 328 in the Quran. One theme that runs throughout the book is the repeated claim by prominent politicians and commentators that the Islamic State is not Islamic. It's worth comparing the statements of the President, the Secretary of State, and other government officials to what the Quran teaches and what Abu Musab al-Zarqawi said. We have been told that ISIS is not Islamic because no religion condones the killing of innocents. Zarqawi taught that the goal of jihadists could include the killing of women, children, and any other passive category. We're also told that ISIS is not Islamic because the vast majority of the victims have been Muslim. Well, Zarqawi admits that although the spilling of Muslim blood is a grave offense, it is not only permissible, but mandated. We need to think clearly about the danger ISIS poses to our world. Robert Spencer's book provides a clear and comprehensive look at the world's largest terror group. I'm Kirby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net.
You're listening to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
This is indeed Point of View. Kirby Anderson is out, and Louis Gohmert, he had me sit in his place. I thank you that you're listening, even though Kirby's not here. And I have a friend on the air with us, Rich Higgins, Patriot. I love the terminology they use about special operations and irregular warfare missions. But Rich, one time you were in my office and we were talking, and I said, well, Rich, I was just seeing a movie where everybody, before they started their conversation in a meeting, would take out the battery out of their cell phone. Should we do that? And as I recall, you said, no, it didn't really make that much difference. Is that right?
I'm not going to get into that with you, sir. You just check into Chappaquidda. The answer's in the bathroom.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I know there are so many things you can't tell me, but one day, if you can, I look forward to talking to you further. But we are at risk, and we have been at risk, and we have enemies that have been plotting for years to bring down the United States. And I know you and my chief of staff, Connie, and I've talked about the quote from Carlos the Jackal about the way you bring down the United States. And his suggestion seems to be having fruition. But we are in danger. You know, we had Comey, the head of the FBI, testify before us that there are ISIS cells being investigated in every single state. He said at one time we weren't sure, but now about every state. But yes, now we have the investigations going on in every state. People have got to care, don't they?
Yeah, I think the average American. I mean, my family is all civilians. I mean, they're trying to understand what's going on, and what I continue to tell them is, educate yourself. Go out, use the internet. Start educating yourself, and really don't depend on the government to teach you how to handle this, and don't depend on the government to protect you. You are the first and the last line of defense in terms of the domestic side of this. You started the conversation, the second part, of discussing our technological means, and this is one of the things we battle against inside the system, sir. Is there isn't a technology to stop this. What we're up against is a political ideology masquerading as a religion. It's analogous to communism, albeit I think this is a harder problem than communism. Western civilization's been fighting this enemy for upwards of 1,400 years now. And while we win every operational or tactical engagement on the battlefield with them, they're beating us in the influence space. They're beating us in the information space. They're beating us in the education space. I mean, this is a war unlike any we've ever fought before in terms of both scale and the ferocity of the ideology. I mean, it's literally a 1,400-year-old ideology. And our government, in the postmodernist, multiculturalist world that we live in today, is ill-equipped to deal with it. And those least equipped to deal with it are the secular, humanist, educated, Ivy League graduates who staff the halls of our State Department, CIA, Pentagon.
Yeah. Well, and that is really unfortunate. And I know people that saw the movie 13 Hours saw some of that attitude reflected there. And, of course, Ty Woods and Glenn Doherty and Sean Smith and the Ambassador Chris Stevens paid the ultimate price because of some of that aloofness and failure to listen. Well, what you told people they need to get on the internet, they need to be watching. What specifically should they be looking at as threats to our way of life?
Well, in the bad old days of the Cold War, when we would fight influence campaigns in foreign countries, we had 4 principal targets that we looked at: students and youth groups, labor groups, media organizations, and elites, meaning primarily the wealthier. In a lot of these third world countries, there was sort of a much more binary structure to the society. And where we need to be looking for, and where we become engaged as individuals, is on that, the school board. It's on the textbook determinations. It's the cultural side of the conflict, and we're going to have to force this issue as a community because it's not going to stop. And I'm concerned in that when we do finally reach a collective defensive mindset, and it seems to me that we're getting there, we may see violence on behalf of the other side actually tick up, which is part of their operational design. It's that synthesis between their kinetic actions and our acquiescence, and allowing them to further erode our First Amendment or our Second Amendment rights. And we have to be conscious of the fact that those kinetic operations are being conducted for the purpose of furtherance their subversive efforts.
Well, Rich, I had a friend went to Texas A&M several years after I did, Green Beret, son of missionary parents, but he was telling me last fall he was asked to come consult with the Kurds in northern Iraq. And as a guy who understands combat and teaches defensive training, he could not believe, he said, we would see caravans that were obviously bringing weapons, supplies to ISIS, the Islamic State. And we had A-10, the planes that could take them out, flying over back and forth, and they wouldn't do anything. And he asked an A-10 pilot, why don't you crater the road to stop the supplying of ISIS? And he said, well, or at least take out the trucks where they're clearly bringing weapons or ammunition, supplies. And he said, well, our rules of engagement only they don't allow us to ever crater the road to stop the supply of ISIS. And we can only fire on or take out trucks that have actually fired on us. Well, ISIS knows that, so they don't fire, so they're bringing supplies back. I mean, I don't understand how we can defeat ISIS when we will not even stop the supplying. Isn't that part of the battle against the people that want to destroy us?
I think it's a part of the battle. I think at some strategic level, there's been a Faustian bargain struck where we're going to hit ISIS. We're not going to destroy ISIS. In other words, we're not going to make it easier for Iran, Shia Iran, to extend, across the Levant and into Lebanon. We almost seem to be, allowing ISIS to just be a problem for the Iranians in their kind of crescent strategy, and it's a Faustian bargain. I mean, it's very similar to me to the bargain we made back in the '80s, where we're going to work with Mujahideen to fight the Russians, and look what the cost was we paid for that, right?
Yep.
And I think that's why you see such restrictive ROEs in place.
And ROEs mean rules of engagement. Well, and as far as understanding our enemy, I don't know anybody that knows any better than you what we're facing. But it was really eye-opening for me several years ago, but back in 2009, when a judge at Guantanamo allowed a pleading prepared and filed by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed there at Guantanamo, the acknowledged and admitted planner of 9/11. And in his 6-page pleading that we know he himself prepared, he had a translation dictionary, he speaks pretty good English, but he says, we do not possess your military might, not your nuclear weapons. And of course, interject parenthetically here, at least not yet. They're about to because of the Iranian deal and the money we've given them. They're going to at least have nukes in 10 years, and I bet you it's a lot sooner than that. But anyway, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed says, nevertheless, we fight you with the Almighty God, so if our act of jihad and our fighting with you cause fear and terror, then many thanks be to God, because it is him that has thrown fear into your hearts, which resulted in your infidelity, paganism, and your statement that God had a son, and your Trinity beliefs. And it's a very good legal document because it goes on, and then it cites from the Quran, soon shall we cast terror in the hearts of the unbelievers, for they have joined companies with Allah, for which he had sent no authority. And in other words, when you say that God had a son, you've joined companies with Allah and you're worthy of death. And I go back to 1783, the Treaty of Paris that caused England to say, yes, you are independent. It starts with the words, in the name of the most holy and undivided Trinity. That's our roots. That's how we got started, and we wouldn't still be here if not for patriots like Richard Higgins. Rich, thanks so much for being on the show with us today. Where can people find you?
I'm on Facebook, and I'm on about it. I do the Hannity show once in a while if people are good.
Well, so, God bless you, Rich Higgins. Right. God bless America. We'll be right back.
How long have you been listening to Point of View? If this is your first day or two, you get a pass. This one isn't for you. But if you've been around a while, I have a question. Have you ever donated to support what we do? If not, why not? Maybe you really don't know. You never seriously thought about it. Well, please think about it. In fact, take action. Do it now. If you keep coming back, you obviously get something from the program. You've heard how people's lives have been transformed and energized to make a difference. And the only way that we can be here tomorrow and next month and next year is if you break that cycle and give. Please, you can likely do more, but act today and give at least $5. $5. Sure, if you can do 50, do it. If you can do 100, do that. But at least 5. Click the Donate Now button at pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Or send $5 to Point of View, Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221. Box 30, Dallas 75221. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again, your guest host for Point of View.
And your guest host for Point of View is Louis Gohmert, in for Kirby Anderson. And so pleased you're with us. Thanks for listening in and being part of the Point of View family. Check out the Point of View website. It is it's amazing, and I was just visiting with some of our staff. Interviews from yesterday that we've had a lot of inquiries about. You can go online, Point of View, and see those. Thomas Jefferson, there is such an effort to take away the influence of the Bible and Christianity that existed in the mind, but take that away from students today. They don't understand. But when you go into the Jefferson Memorial and you see engraved his quote, "The God who gave us life gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are a gift of God, the gift of God?" And then Thomas Jefferson said, "Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just and that his justice cannot sleep forever." Folks, these are serious times. And we have a caller, Dave, on the line. Dave, welcome to Point of View.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the election just for a minute, if I might. I'm kind of nervous, so I'll try to get it together.
Well, you shouldn't be nervous talking to me because you sound better than I do.
I don't know about that. The point I want to make, I try to make it concise as possible. Donald Trump is a capitalist. Christianity survives pretty well under capitalism, but Hillary Clinton is a socialist communist, and Christianity does not go well in that at all. These people who are talking about they can't vote because that's the two evils. We don't want the larger evil on us, that's for sure. Communism, from what I'm able to see, is actually a national prison. But Mr. Obama has pushed us toward that. Hillary's trying to do that. Hillary will do that, no doubt.
Yeah, so, I'm sure that by the time the election rolls around, there will be some unpleasant things that are brought out or found or something about Trump. Some will be lies, some may not be. I don't know by the time they get rolled out. And you know, he's done some things that I profoundly disagree with. But when we're talking, especially like Spurgeon's quote, he's right. When choosing between the lesser of two evils, choose neither. But that's not true when you're voting. Because when you're voting, it becomes like a superior commissioned officer told me back my 4 years on active duty at Fort Benning, Georgia, "Captain, when you refuse to make a decision, it becomes a decision. And if you refuse to choose between two candidates, as imperfect as they are, you have made a choice. You have voted, and you're not going to like how it turns out." It used to get me, Dave, and I appreciate so much for your call. It used to get me when I was a judge qualifying jurors, and we would have people come in and say, I can't serve on a jury. I'm a Christian. I'm going, well, I'm a Christian. Should I leave the bench? No, I'm not saying that. And I said, well, I'm not here to influence or change the way you think, but I am required to determine what you actually believe so I can determine whether or not you're disqualified. Now, you say you're a Christian, so does that mean you believe the Bible? Well, yes, of course. Well, I don't know about the of course. Some people say they're Christians and they don't, but believe the Bible. But do you believe that what Jesus is quoted as having said in Matthew is accurate? Well, yes. Well, you know, Jesus was really talking about the point that the heart, what's in the heart, will be judged by the Father. But he points out that if you say raka, which was an offense in the law back then you'll answer to the courts. And he understood that in an organized society, you are going to need government, you're going to need courts, you're going to need people before which others are accountable for wrongdoing. And do you believe Romans is supposed to be part of the Bible? Well, yes. Well, Romans 13:4. It says, if you do evil, be afraid, because God does not give the sword to the government, in effect, in vain. Because as an individual Christian, we're not supposed to judge. As an individual Christian, we're not supposed to kill or any of those things. But when you're in the role of the government and you're given the sword, you are required to judge. You are, in order to protect the overall greater society. You are required to, those of us that have served in the military, that is necessary. And as government, as military, we are supposed to enforce the law to avoid chaos. And so we just happen, Dave, to live in a country where the people are the government. And if you refuse to participate in the hiring of your servants who are supposed to do what you, the majority, tell them to do, then you are going to get, as an elected official, exactly what you deserve every time. And so I thank God that throughout our history that people that believed in God and had Jesus Christ as their Savior have participated. It's made the government better. It's helped the blessed place it's been. But we have an obligation, and I'm glad you recognize it. And I'd like to go to Ben, who had a question. Ben, I understand you may have wanted to ask Rich Higgins a question, but what was your question?
Well, I was just wanting to know what his outlook was on the Patriot Act, and some sides asking for more for extensions or for more power to delve into things such as the case with the was it Santa? I forgot the California shooting a year and a half ago.
Yeah, San Bernardino.
San Bernardino.
Yeah, well, we've been told in Congress, I'm sorry Rich is not here to give his view, but I can tell you, being on the Patriot Act, I was there in 05 as a freshman when it came up or 06 as a renewal, 05 or 6. And we were assured that there were certain provisions, Section 206, 215, they would only be used to go after people who were either foreign terrorists or had known ties with foreign terrorists. And I said, well, there is also this provision for clandestine surveillance activity or something. Could you? What's that? Oh, don't worry about that. That's not. But anyway, we were assured that it would only be used to get information about people who either were foreign terrorists or had contact with foreign terrorists. And in fact, in one of our debates, I was being sarcastic, and I said, look, I understand those on the other side of the aisle, you don't want this provision, but if you don't want the government using this provision of the Patriot Act on you personally, then when you call a terrorist, a foreign terrorist friend, use somebody else's phone. And I was being sarcastic. Well, then later, imagine when we get the information from Snowden, it appears certainly was an act of treason, but it did expose some lies that we had been told in Congress about what was being seen and what was not being surveilled and what was not being gotten. And they were getting a lot of information that they swore to us they were not doing. So we have got to do a better job. Oh, and we had another question about the Trans-Pacific Partnership earlier that I was told, and the person didn't stay on. I'm against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. For one thing, it gives special relationship to Vietnam, and until they give us the whereabouts and the remains of those that they lied about that were continuing to be POWs, those that were killed. They knew where the remains. I'm never going to vote to give them a special, good, helpful relationship. But the problem with the TPP, from my standpoint, I went down, I read all that they allowed us to read. It gives the president so much authority to go around Congress. The president doesn't need any more authority to go around around the people, around the Congress. Also would encourage you, pray for those and been through the Italian earthquake. Pray for our friends in Louisiana that have been through the flooding, like Tom Perkins. You can go to their church, greenwellspringschurch.com, or Samaritan's Purse to help. But we will be right back with Point of View.
Now, back to Point of View, your listener-supported source for truth.
This is Point of View. This is Louis Gomer sitting in for Kirby Anderson, and we're glad you're here with us today. America is in trouble. We have gotten so far away from our founding roots. I saw a story about this in the last 24 hours. A veteran kills himself in a parking lot of the Veterans Administration Hospital on Long Island. And a 76-year-old veteran committed suicide on Sunday. It just apparently out of frustration. We have seen indications that the Obama administration wants to start doing transgender sex change surgeries. They're encouraging that. The most thorough study ever done, 30-year study by the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, says you're 20 times more likely to commit suicide if you have a sex change operation. And yet, the senator who is in charge of the military committee, defense committee in the Senate, he absolutely was adamant, according to senator friends of mine, he would not let the bill funding the military come out of his committee unless everybody agreed to put women in the draft. I have visited with moderate Muslim leaders in North Africa, in the Middle East, and none of them can believe the positions that Senator McCain has taken, which are helpful and have been immensely helpful to the Muslim Brotherhood, like when he flew over after 30 of the 90 million people in Egypt went to the streets and demanded that their president, who had was following the Chavez route to become a dictator, who was following leadings of the spiritual leader, Muslim Brotherhood leader, they demanded his removal. He was removed. He has been charged. And Senator McCain flew over to Cairo and demanded that he be put back in as president. People couldn't believe that he and Obama were both taking that position. And I know Senator McCain has said, gee, if Obama had been bombing in Syria when I told him to, then ISIS wouldn't have happened, basically. But the truth is, if Obama had bombed in Syria when McCain told him to, he would have taken out Assad. And now the Al-Qaeda-backed, the Islamic State-backed rebels, rather, in Syria would be running the country. So thank God they're at least being held to only a small part of the country. I have with me on Point of View now a friend. She's an amazing woman, a doctor, physician from Arizona named Kellie Ward. Kellie Ward, thanks for being on Point of View.
Hi, Congressman Gohmert. It is great to be on here with you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Well, I just was hoping Christians and non-Christians that listen to this Christian show around all over the country would get to know you a little better. I think you'd make an awesome senator. Tell us about how things are going in Arizona right now. You have an election coming up on Tuesday. Apparently some people are early voting already.
Yes, I do. Early voting's been going on here in Arizona since August 3rd, so we have quite a long time for people to vote. I think about half the votes have already been cast.
Wow.
In this particular election. And I am going up against, the ultimate establishment insider, John McCain. And just me in a nutshell, I'm a military wife. My husband and I have been married 21 years. He's been in the military for 32, still serving in the Air National Guard. We have 3 awesome kids, all grown up now. I mean, the youngest is 18. Wow. I'm a family physician, owns my own business, but now I just work in the emergency department. And I was a very effective Arizona state senator here in my great state. And so I want to take some of that common sense and some of those the things that I was able to accomplish here to Washington, because things are in such a gridlock. The House passes so many good things, and then the Senate ignores them and does exactly nothing.
Well, yeah. You're exactly right, and I love your enthusiasm. I love it when I met you there in Arizona, and actually, Kellie, I'm really looking forward to seeing you Saturday morning. I'll have to check. Where is it we're going to be seeing each other?
We're going to be in Gold Canyon, which is kind of between Phoenix and Tucson, so right in a very conservative part of this state, and people, I'm sure, are going to be there to rally to say, we want to change Washington, and we know we cannot do it unless we change the people we send there. Senator McCain's been there almost 40 years. He's getting ready to celebrate his 80th birthday on Monday, and I do want to give him a birthday present. I want to give him the present of retirement because I think he deserves it.
Well, and I'd written an article that Breitbart published. People could find it, but our respect and absolutely empathize, sympathize the hell that he went through as a POW for 3 years in the Hanoi Hilton. As I understand it, he was wounded, and one of the other Hanoi Hilton prisoners told me apparently he was in a hospital somewhere for 2 years. They don't know where he was, but then was in the Hanoi Hilton for 3 years and endured absolute horrors as a POW on behalf of our country. And he is owed so much respect and admiration for suffering for his country. But that still doesn't give anybody the right to destroy the things we believe in and to be helping the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, he went to the floor of the Senate condemning me and Michelle Bachmann for a letter we wrote, and it was very, very clear. He hadn't even read the letter. He got a call from Hillary Clinton, apparently, saying they're going after yours and my friend Huma Abedin, which we're finding out a lot more. As I understand, McCain still continues to defend her, even with all the close family ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. And I keep wanting to know who put Huma Abedin in that original role as an intern, because we know a guy that's in prison for 23 years for supporting terrorism was helping the Clinton administration back then with finding good Muslims that would work well in the administration. I keep asking people, did Al-Moody put Huma Abedin there? Anyway, McCain continued to defend her, and God bless him. He served our country. He told Brian Williams on NBC that I was a man of no intelligence, and I couldn't believe he said that. But after I saw, yeah, he actually said that. But I had a guy come up to me at the airport, Kelly, and I'm talking to Kellie Ward, maybe the next senator, I'm hoping, in Arizona. But he said, look, I know what my classmate John McCain said about you on the news, and I just wanted to tell you, you know, all of us in the class know he was the lowest in the class. I said, no, I thought he was just a few up, 8 up or something from the bottom. He said, nah, we were all told that they didn't want the Admiral's son to be the bottom, and they knew if they moved him up only one notch, then that would look too obvious, so they moved him up a number. But everybody knew he was the poorest student in our class. Well, I don't know. That's what a guy told me, a classmate of his at Reagan Airport. But Kellie Ward, I know you. I know you are very intelligent, and I know you won't be making the same mistakes that are hurting this country. But I never have asked you, are you for forcing women into the draft like Senator McCain is?
Oh, my gosh, no. I mean, who asked him to do that? Because I know that the people in Arizona have been calling and crying out to secure the border and to support Christians in the Middle East and to
Hey, Kelly, we got 10 seconds, so what's your website?
I hope people will join me, KellieWard.com, Kelly with an I, because I'm going to be a conservative.
There you are.
Arizona.
Folks, thanks for being with us on Point of View. God bless you. It's a great country, a great day.
If you have been listening, you've probably heard me talking about the power of $5. Someone did a little math around here and discovered if every Point of View listener gave $5 this week, it would keep us on the air for about 3 years, 36 months. That's encouraging, don't you think? I mean, sure, it would be nice if a millionaire stepped up and sent a check with a big number. The reality is, all we really need is for everyone, for you, to do something. What I would like you to do today is find 2 friends, encourage them to join you in sending a gift, at least $5, more if you can. Challenge each other. Then the 3 of you go challenge 3 more. Just have everyone click the Donate Now button at pointofview.net. You go ahead, do it first. Pointofview.net. Or send your gift to Point of View, Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221. Point of View, Box 30, Dallas, Texas 75221. Thank you for doing your part in support of Point of View's $5 challenge. Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries.